Okay, so troubleshooting your Juki DDL 8700. This is a drop feed machine, and we'll take a look at the common problems that you might experience with this and just real quick and easy solutions on how to get yourself going again. Now I have separate topics on comparing the 8700 with a walking foot to see which machine might be best for you, as well as a threading and startup guide for this machine, and I'll drop those video links down in the description box. Now, if your machine won't sew at all, or if it's skipping stitches badly, there's a good chance that you just have the wrong needle system installed, so let's take a look at that. Now, the correct needle system for the Juki DDL 8700 is a DB×1, and that you can use sizes from 9 all the way up to 18. So really the upper end of this needle system will be for a thread weight of about 69, also known as a tacks 70. So that's what you're going to use, is a DB×1, making sure to match the needle size with the thread weight that you're using. But there's also another needle that's considered interchangeable. This one is a DL×1, also known as a 1738A. And that one will let you use a little bit larger sizes. So this one you can use in a 19 or 20 for this machine if you want to use 92 weight thread, which would also be known as a tacks 90. So that's one thing you can kind of work around the limitations of the machine, but as far as just by the books, you'll be using a DB×1. What I've seen a lot of people do is make the mistake of grabbing a common 135/17 needle system that you might use with a Consew 206 RB5 or a Juki LU563. It's a very common needle, and it's actually too long for this machine. This is the DB×1 here, and there's quite a difference in the length there. So effectively, if you put the wrong needle system in your machine, it's a lot like the timing is off on your machine, even when it's not. Today I'll be using this DB×1 needle in a size 18 for some 69 weight light upholstery thread. If you're coming from the world of home sewing machines, it may be confusing as to how to insert your needle. Just make sure to put the long groove on the left side so that the little scarf or notch is down on the right side, and also make sure that you insert that needle fully up into the needle bar. If your bobbin case is not clicking in the way you expect, just make sure that the little tab points towards the front of the machine and that the take-up arm is in the top position. That's where you want it to easily insert that bobbin case. Now I'll refer you to my threading and startup guide on the DDL for a complete thread path, and that video will be down in the description box. But one key point on that is that you make sure to go through this needle bar thread guide, particularly if you're having upper thread shredding. If you miss that hole, it'll actually cause that issue, so make sure to go through that needle bar thread guide before you thread the needle from left to right. Bobbin tension should be light and consistent. I've got white thread on the bottom and kind of a red thread for my top. Let's say you want to make a nice square corner and you're getting a skip stitch right on the corner. Well, it could be a timing issue, I suppose, but it also just could be a simple thing with operator error. What you want to do as you approach the corner is make sure that you stop in the needle down position, and then there's a specific position of the needle bar that you want after that. So let's say this is our final stitch. You want to go to bottom dead center and then continue rolling the hand wheel towards you slightly until the needle bar raises a bit more. That's the position. You'll get a nice clean stitch in the corner and you won't skip that stitch. And that looks really good on the corner. I can see a nice square stitching line, but one thing I do notice is little dots of white. So this is the bobbin thread showing through on the top of my work. And that's simply an issue because I just switched over from a 92 weight thread and I had my tension set a little heavier. Since this is a 69 weight thread, I need to back off that upper tension by just turning that knob a bit counterclockwise. Okay, that looks good. We're getting a nice balanced stitch now, so I'm happy with that. But a much more common problem you'll run into on your machine is loose loops on the bottom of your material. And here's what that looks like. Now this is the underside of my workpiece, and sometimes it'll just look like a straight thread where your bobbin thread is just staying along the bottom, or in worse situations you'll actually see that upper thread physically looping down on the bottom. So here I can see all that red thread is looping, and my bobbin thread again is just laying on top of the material. This is, of course, not a strong stitch at all. But not to worry, if you see those dreaded loose loops on the bottom of your material, there's a simple fix. In that case, we simply need to increase our upper tension. I had this backed off till it was almost non-existent, and that's why the problem was so drastic, but we'll just increase that tension and retest. And just like that, we're seeing nice balanced stitches that are centered on the thickness of the material. Now, if you can't get that nice balanced stitch with just upper tensions alone, you may need to make an adjustment on the bobbin tension. So we'll review how to do that, but first I just want to remind you, if you ever have trouble pulling that bobbin case out, it's simply because your take-up arm is not in the top position. So just roll the hand wheel towards you until the take-up arm is up at its top position, and then you'll notice that bobbin case will just easily come out. So if you do need to make adjustments to the bobbin tension, there's 2 screws right on the bobbin case. There's this smaller one that just holds the tension tab in place. There's a slightly larger one with a little lip or ring around it. That's the screw you want to adjust the tension clockwise to increase bobbin tension. And it's slight adjustments, usually a quarter turn at a time. And the net result you're trying for is to have the tension feel like it's a spool of dental floss. So light but consistent tension. And we're not talking a large mechanic screwdriver on this. You really want a very small screwdriver that fits that slotted screw quite well. I once heard a respected upholsterer say that once you get your tension set, don't touch that knob ever again. And it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in the sewing room, just because anytime you change material type or thickness, or anytime you change thread, you'll of course want to make slight adjustments to that tension, and usually it's the upper tension knob that you'll need to adjust. It's just something you want to be comfortable doing. So here I'm going to loosely hold back my upper thread as I roll the hand wheel toward me to pick up that bobbin thread. And if you ever notice that there's extra resistance when trying to turn the machine by hand, there's a little trick you can do down at the foot pedal. So this is true of clutch motors as well as servos, although it's not true of a digital servo. But if you have an analog style servo with just a single knob that controls the speed on the front, you'll notice this works. Just slightly depress the pedal. That will release the cork brake and make the machine much easier to turn by hand. If you're having issues with your material not feeding evenly, there's 2 things you can try. First, try increasing the downward pressure on your presser foot by loosening up this lock nut and adjusting this. Clockwise, downward will actually increase the pressure on the foot, counterclockwise for the opposite. The other thing you can check for improper feeding is the height of your feed dogs. Those should be between 0.75 and 0.85 millimeters above the bed of your machine at their highest position. If they're not, you want to just loosen this screw here and raise or lower the feed dogs to get them within spec. And here's an easy way to judge the height of your feed dog without any special equipment. Just use 8 or 9 strips of plain copy paper. At 9 strips, you get 0.84 millimeters. If we drop that down to 8 strips of paper, 0.74. So that's a nice approximation of the range just by varying it by 1 sheet of paper. And that's easiest with the presser foot and the needle removed, but just manipulate the hand wheel until the feed dogs are at their highest point. And you should be flush with that 9 sheets of paper in this case. Looks great. Okay, with everything perfectly dialed in now on our tensions, we'll take off sewing and we'll think it'll be fine, but it won't be, and then I'll show you why. Oh wow. Okay, here the machine has bound up. The hand wheel won't roll forward at all, and it won't roll too far backwards. So it's basically the #1 rookie mistake on an industrial sewing machine, and that is don't take off with your presser foot lifted. It's a good rule of thumb that you only move the hand wheel towards you, and since it won't move forward, we'll have to remove the bobbin case to help to clear this jam. There it goes. I think we may have freed it up a little bit. And we'll just clean up any of the extra threads and we'll start again. Sometimes rocking the hand wheel forward and back will create enough slack in there for that thread to come loose. Nice. I actually love the knee lift on this machine. It's very sturdy and easy to adjust. Better than some bigger industrial walk-in foot machines, I think. But The one negative on this machine in particular is that presser foot is not spring loaded, so it is possible to leave that presser foot in the top position even when you're using your knee lift. Just a little quirk with this machine, but it's obvious on thin materials, but not so obvious if you're trying to sew something a little thicker. Now the knee lift itself is spring loaded just like you would expect, but it's actually your hand lift that's not spring loaded. So if I raise this manually and I'm activating my knee lift, normally on an industrial machine that would come down automatically by knee lift. Well, on this 8700 it doesn't, so that's just something to be aware of. Never take off with that presser foot lifted. And the reason for that, when the presser foot is lifted, it will release the tension on your upper tension mechanism. The purpose of that, of course, is to make it easy to remove the material from the machine. But this will quickly lead to loose loops on the bottom, best case scenario. But it'll also make the machine want to jam up down in the bobbin area, something you'd definitely like to avoid. So it's okay to be inexperienced with an industrial machine, but don't make this one rookie mistake. And like most machines, the lift by knee is much higher than the lift by hand. That's the maximum with the hand lift, and that's the max with the knee lift. So give you a little extra room there. So the groove on the left and the scarf on the right to get your old Juki sewing tonight. Another thing you can do to give yourself the best chance of success and avoid any machine bind-ups is to hold your threads back a little bit as you start to sew. Now it's not quite as important on a side loader machine like this. Top loaders are quite sensitive to that, but it's always a good idea with any industrial. And then here's a little trick how to get the perfect back tack if you're doing some top stitching and it matters. Roll the hand wheel towards you until your needle's in the bottom dead center position. Then continue rolling it towards you slightly till the needle bar raises slightly. Right in that position, depress your reverse lever and back tack from there. You'll get really pretty looking back tacks. And the final flub in the don't make this mistake category, this machine is an oil bath, so make sure that you have lubrication down in that oil pan. I actually met a fellow that didn't realize this was an oil pan, and he was running his machine completely dry for 1 year. So I guess it's a testament to the machinery that it was able to keep going, but this is actually an oil pump that circulates that lube throughout your machine. There's various wicks that pick up moisture, and it's a really nice system. There's actually a slotted screw here for a large flat screwdriver, and that's a drain, so you can drain and replace that oil periodically. You'll see low and high marks on the pan, and you just fill the oil between those two marks. And of course, only use clear sewing machine oil. Juki has their specific one that they recommend, but I find as long as it's a clear oil designed specifically for sewing machines, it works quite well. Oh, and if you're winding a bobbin while you're not sewing, make sure to raise the presser foot and unthread the machine at least back before the take-up arm. Otherwise, the machine will be trying to form a stitch when you don't want it to. So if you just take it step by step in troubleshooting your DDL 8700, I bet you'll be able to sort most common problems. Hey, thanks for watching. Remember to drop down to the description box. There I'll have links to some of my favorite machines as well as accessories and other video resources. If I gave you some good ideas along the way, hit me with the thumbs up. Otherwise, if I fixed your sewing machine with you, well, then you have to comment. Those are the rules. You have to comment. Did you subscribe? I don't know. You could. You could. I'm just saying. Groove on the left and the scarf on the right. Get your old Juki sewing tonight.